He'd treat you the same way. He would. Okay, we're going to be in Galatians chapter 5 today. Galatians chapter 5. And the last few weeks I've put it off and we've been in John chapter 17, but we are going to start in Galatians chapter 5. I want to say the book of Galatians is leading up to chapter 5 and chapter 6. When I would go someplace into another country, the first time I did this, I was in Peru. And I can't remember, Johnny, I don't think you were with me when I did the first time I was in Peru. I decided to preach through the book of Galatians, and I did 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6 chapters. By the time you get to chapter 5, you've already covered a lot of ground. And they're either going to be overwhelmed with gladness or mad as a hornet. And there's very little difference. In Galatians chapter 5, we're going to be talking about freedom. Freedom. Now, people speak about freedom, but they don't understand what it means. I was listening to something or reading something, I can't remember. I think I was reading something and talking about this guy I was reading that was working with the chaplains in a prison. And he was talking about forgiveness. And he was saying your forgiveness took place from before time existed. Christ spoke it on the cross when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But the cross is eternal. So when you were chosen from before time existed, you were also forgiven from before time existed. And they said to him, oh, you can't tell the prisoners that. If you tell the prisoners that, they will think it's okay to sin. I want to point out, no, they won't. I understand that I'm forgiven. I still sin. You say, you sin? More than I want to, I can promise you that. But here's the thing. Once you understand who you are in Christ, you understand that you're unconditionally forgiven, past, present, and future. Your desire is not to sin all you want. I've used this illustration before, and I'm going to do it again. We had a dog. I was looking at her. We have her picture on the refrigerator. Her name was Bonnie. Bonnie was a big dog. She could sit down and look in the windows. Bonnie was a dog that was fenced in early in her life. My son had Bonnie, and he lived in a neighborhood where the dogs could not run loose, and so he kept her in a pen. When she would get out, she would run, and it would take a day to get her back. Bonnie weighed 105 pounds, and she was not fat. She was a little dog as far as, she was a lean dog, put it that way. But she weighed 105 pounds. Bonnie had a head about that long. She was a mix, a lab mix. I don't know what she was mixed with, but boy, she was big. And now Bonnie thought she was a lap dog. Wherever you were, she'd try to get as close to you as she could. But my son moved, and he was living on a highway in Washington, Georgia. He was coaching and teaching up in Washington, Georgia, coaching football and baseball. And he was not able to keep Bonnie. So he'd had her for a year. She'd been fenced in for a year, and we inherited Bonnie for years and years till she died of cancer. But Bonnie was the most unusual dog. The first day we got her, there are no fences out here where we live. First day we got her, Bonnie ran. She was gone for a day. And I thought, well, she'll either come back or she won't. I had no idea where Bonnie was. She was a law dog before that time. She did not understand freedom. She thought freedom was the ability to go and do anything you wanted to. And she was right, to a point. And then at dark, Bonnie showed back up. And we fed Bonnie. And we petted Bonnie and we loved on Bonnie. Well, as the days went by, Bonnie no longer wanted to roam, just the opposite. Bonnie was an outside dog. Bonnie did not come in the house. But wherever we were in the house, she would go to that window and sit and look in. Because you see, she was outside in fact, but in spirit, she was inside. Bonnie loved everybody. There's a picture, one of my very favorite pictures, and I don't know where it is, my Johnny, but it was a picture of Sydney when she was a young girl. She was a toddler, and she was hugging Bonnie, And she had one thumb, and she had her left thumb in Bonnie's right eye, and she had her right thumb in Bonnie's left eye, and thumb in each eye. And Bonnie was just, I'm talking about in there. And Bonnie was licking Sydney while that was going on. Now, if you stick your thumb in my eye, I'm not going to lick you, okay? It ain't going to happen. All right? I'll probably be not pleased with you, okay? But Bonnie, she just wanted to be where people are. You see, Bonnie realized she's loved here. And because she was loved here, she had no desire to roam. All she wanted to do is be where we are. That's the way it is with grace. You know, freedom, when we understand freedom, the freedom that God has given us, we understand that we're free to love. And we're free to be loved. And we're free to live loved. And there are no boundaries on the love of God. You're drawn to love. Do you understand what I'm talking about? My niece called me one day, and my niece she's a grown woman. And her pastor had shared some things with her that he did not know anything about. And he told them, their congregation, he told her, you're not free to do that. You're not free. And she called me up and she says, Uncle Craig, is it true? Are we not free to share this? And I told her, I said, Melanie, you're free. You're free to love. And there are no boundaries. You know, God didn't put any fences around you at all. There are no fences. You can go and do wherever you want to go and do whatever you want to do. You say, oh, you don't mean that. Yeah, I do. Then I'll ask you this question. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to do? Do you want to beat old ladies up? Well, I know some old ladies that wouldn't be very wise. I'm not calling any names, but some of them carry guns. And anyway, so that's not my desire. I'm afraid of her. You're not an old lady, but you know. But you see, that's not what you want to do. You're free to rob banks. Is that what you want to do? You're free to do vile and wicked things. Wouldn't change the way God feels about you. Would he feel bad for you? Yes, because it would be harming you. But you see, he loves you not based on what you do, but on what he does. So you're free. People that don't understand freedom, they think it's rules and boundaries that keep them safe. It's not. I used to preach, when there's a fence around, you feel safe when there's a fence. I'll talk to Robinson's family here. Now, they lived in an area where they would go inside and lock the door. Isn't that right? And they kept the door locked. Did it make you feel safe? I can tell you right now, on the outside maybe, but on the inside, you still were afraid. You were living with boundaries, and it didn't remove fear. You lived in fear. And it takes a while to stop living like that, to live in freedom. And there are so many Christians that are still bound by what they thought was right, the law. They're bound. Well, in verse 1, chapter 5, Paul said, understand, he's talking to the Galatians. The Galatians, that's a group of churches, a group, not one church. It's an area. And they thought they knew it all. They thought they had it together. They're the ones who checked preachers out. They're the ones who held the best Bible conferences. And they're the ones who had gone from freedom in Christ and they'd gone back to the boundaries of the law. They had left grace, and we're going to see that they'd fallen from grace, and we're going to see what that means. They had left grace and they'd gone back to law. And so after Paul's been sharing these things with them, he called Peter out, he called Barnabas out, he called James, the Lord's brother, half-brother, called him out. He was a pastor of the church at Jerusalem. He said to Peter, who has bewitched you? What has happened? Okay. Verse 1, he says, it was for freedom that Christ set us free. Therefore, keep standing firm and do not subject again to the yoke of slavery. The reason that we have freedom is so that we would be free. You were set free for freedom. Say that word, freedom.
Freedom.
Do you believe that? Do you believe you're free? Some people read the Bible, and I've heard it said, and you may have said it. Now I know most of the people that hey, Brother Ken, there's my dear brother Ken Karcher on there. I love this brother. But so many people think that they read the Bible so that they'll know what to do. Wrong. Can I say that any louder? Wrong. The Spirit of God doesn't just tell us what to do, He lives it out through us. I said this the other day. My brother Paul Young, he had a t-shirt on. We were together. He had a t-shirt on. It said, Jesus loves me, this I know, because He told me. And I thought about that. And I love the song, Jesus Loves Me, for the Bible tells me so. And the Bible does tell me so. But it's the Spirit of God that's causing the Bible to bear witness with my spirit. Jesus loves me, this I know, He told me. I am free. You know, when Johnny's out, my Johnny, the one without the mustache, okay. When my Johnny's out, I don't wonder, what's she doing? Is she stepping out on me? I never, ever give that a thought, ever. And when I'm out, I hope she doesn't, because it's you don't need to. I'm drawn to the one that loves me. I'm drawn to the one at home. So is she. She's free. Do I trust her? Yes. Does God trust me? Now this is something that sounds crazy. Does God trust me? You say, well, you don't know how I am. He does. He knows how you are. But you don't know who you are, how you are. He knows that you're a child of God, loved, set apart, declared righteous, declared holy. He knows who you are. Sometimes we forget who we are, but He reminds us. We're always drawn back to the freedom in Christ. The source of our freedom, Christ set us free. And this is an aorist tense. Let me tell you what that means. It means it's completed action. It's done. It is completed action. Punctiliar, can't be done again. It's like a firecracker when it blows up. It can only blow up one time. You can only be set free one time, and it has already taken place. You're free. It's a fact. Once and for all. Then he says, keep standing firm. Now this is a present imperative. This is saying continue to do what you're presently doing. Once you understand that you're free in Christ, you're free to be loved, you're free to love. Once you understand that, continue doing what you're presently doing. You're free. Isn't that a great? This is a command. Persistent. He's saying persevere, stand firm, be persistent in your freedom in Christ. Later on we're going to see, don't let anybody draw you back into bondage. And then he says, do not be subject again to the yoke of slavery. Do not. This is a command. Continue, it's present tense, continue not being drawn in to the yoke of slavery. Don't go back. When I trusted Christ, I didn't know anything really. Even though I had gone to church off and on for a good portion of my life, and for years I hadn't gone at all, never went. I would sleep on Sundays I would sleep till around 1 o'clock because I'd been out late the night before. I'm just going to tell you. And then I would get up and I would go to ball practice. I played on a travel softball team, and we were really good. And we rarely lost a game. We had guys that were drafted in multiple sports, professional sports, guys that were Division I ball players, track athletes, basketball players, baseball players. It's amazing the talent we had. We beat everybody bad. I wasn't interested in spiritual things until that day. That day that God revealed to me that He loved me, that I trusted Him. I was by myself. Well, I had a roommate. He was in the bed next to me. Pete Rejecki. Pete's with the Lord now. Pete was a field goal kicker at Georgia. He was a German boy. And I said, Pete, wake up. There's something wrong with me. In his broken English, his German accent, go back to sleep. You know, Germans tell you like that, man, go back to sleep. Okay. Except I couldn't. And all of a sudden, everything changed. I didn't have any laws that I was interested in keeping. There were no commandments that I knew much about. I just knew that I wanted to be with Christ. Wherever he was, that's where I wanted to be. It was like Bonnie. Wherever I was, that's where Bonnie wanted to be. She was drawn by love. I was drawn by love. I had to learn bondage, but I did. I was in a Christian ministry, good people. That's where I began learning it. Then I went to seminary for 4 years. And I had to learn. But it never felt right. Never did. Don't go back. Keep on going to the fact that you are set free. This word bondage is the word slavery. Slavery. Do you realize that you're living as a slave? And the Bible tells you that you're not a slave, that you are a son. A son doesn't live like a slave. And that's the kind of yoke, not that Christ has placed on us, that we've placed on ourselves. We've placed this yoke of slavery on ourselves. Slavery equals bondage equals law. In verse 2 it says, Behold, I, Paul, say to you, that if you receive circumcision, Christ will be of no benefit to you. Now this is kind of harsh. If you receive circumcision and grace don't go together. When you think of the word circumcision, we're not talking about a physical act that today most in the United States, almost all children, boy babies, are circumcised. And it's not done because of law. But here, it does relate to the law. Don't go back to the law. You know, it's amazing when people try to put the law back on you. They don't bring up big things and try to overwhelm you with it. It's little things. If you love God, you will give. I agree with that. But they're making it almost like a shame thing. If you love God, you will witness. Well, witness is not a verb. It's a noun. Witness is who you are. It is not what you do. And the word witness in the Greek is the word martyr. What is the word martyr in Urdu? Okay, what does a martyr do? He dies. You got it. Sable said a martyr dies. Well, it's the same in the Greek. It's the same in the Spanish. And it's the same in the English. The only thing a martyr does is die. A martyr does nothing. That's what we have done. We have died in Christ. When Christ died, we died. When Christ was buried, we were buried. And when Christ was raised, we were raised to walk in newness of life. It's who we are. If somebody's told you that you need to do these things to be right with God, don't you believe them? You're not right with God based on what he did. The word right comes from the word righteous, which comes from, the word righteous and the word justice or judgment or the word just. They all come from the same root word. Your righteousness is based on what Christ did for you. It's not based on what you do. You receive what he did for you. You believe what he did for you, but it's not based on your efforts. And so when people tell you that you need to do something to be right with God, they don't understand. Here's another thing that sounds good. Sounds good. You may have said this. You need to get right with God. You ever told anybody that? You need to get right with God. Or you may have said this. I need to get right with God. You see, you're making it based on what you do rather than on what Christ did. When you understand, in his eyes, you are right with him. Now, most of you have children. Have you ever had any disobedient children? Not me. Certainly, I've never been a disobedient child. That's a lie. We've all had disobedient children. How did you feel about them? Sometimes I wanted to pinch their little heads off. But that's not how I really feel about them. Let me tell you something. A disobedient child that was near death, I would die to protect them. Wouldn't you? Well, that's what Christ did. He died. And when he died, the Bible says you died not just with him, but in him. You see, your relationship with Christ is not based on what you do. Your relationship with the Father. And it's not that Christ is the good one and God the Father is the bad one. God the Father thinks exactly like the Son, and the Son thinks exactly like the Father. So, you're loved by God. He says, keep standing firm. Don't stop. Do not be subject again. You're not subject now. Don't go back to it. Keep going back to the fact that you are set free. Again, I said slavery equals bondage. And that's the kind of yoke that's on you. Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my load is light. I used to say, well, this is what it is. It was a dual yoke, and we were yoked with Christ, and when he worked, we worked, and all this stuff. Yeah, it sounds good. But know this, we do work. We were created in Christ Jesus for good works. But it's Christ in us, the hope of glory. He's the one doing it. But it is me. Because you see, that is really who I am. I've used this illustration before. You know, for a young child, one of the most pleasurable things for a young child is to work with his dad, or girl with her mom, or even a girl with her dad. I remember when my first granddaughter, and I have 13 now, and I love them all. Boy, I tell you what. When I had my first son, I thought, I don't believe I can love another one as much as I love this one. It'd be hard. Then we had the second one. I did. Third one. I did. Then I had a daughter. I did. That first granddaughter came along. Oh my. You know, I tell you what. The first grandchild survives in spite of us. The first grandchild, what a terrible thing we do to them. We make them think that the whole world revolves around them. It's what we do. Somehow they turn out all right anyway. But I loved her, and I can remember when she was 2, little girl, I was washing the car, and she said, Papa, I want to help, Papa, I want to help. And I thought, well, I can wash this car in 30 minutes by myself, or 2 hours letting Sydney help. But I let Sydney help. Did I need Sydney? No. Did Sydney want to help? Yes. I can remember the time, again, she was 2. She wanted to play golf. Johnny, it was that course we play up in Cochrane, you know, where you can play all day for one price. Sydney wanted to go play golf. Oh my. She rode in the golf cart with me, a 2-year-old. She didn't want to watch Papa play. She wanted to play, so I'd let her hit my putter. The first scratches I ever put on my putter, Sydney did it. By swinging it on the cart path, sparks fly. Not with my putter! You know, and but they did. And I started looking at those those love lines on my putter.
They're a lot prettier now.
Yeah, they are. I don't use that putter anymore, but she's not going to take my new one. No, she's not getting that one. But now she's 19, who'll be 20, so it's not so bad. And I was playing with a guy, and he was a really super nice guy. I didn't know him. They just paired us up, and I say, Sydney, shh, don't talk while he's swinging. And so he'd tee off, and then I'd tee off, then I'd let Sydney tee off with the putter there. And I remember when she put that ball down there, and this made the round go a little slower. I want to point that out. And she gets ready to swing at that ball, and she looks at me and goes, shh. Papa, don't talk when I'm swinging. 2-year-old, like she could hit it anyway. So it was really funny. But after the 8th hole, I called her mother and I said, Sydney wants to go home. She didn't know she did, but she did. And so at the turn, I met Joey. I said, come get this kid, But the bottom line is, was she helping me wash the car? No. But she thought she was. Was she helping me play golf? Well, truthfully, she might have, because I quit worrying about my game. That's for sure. But I just loved being with her. That's the way God feels about us. And when you mess up, God lovingly corrects because he loves you. Well, in verse 2 it says, behold, I, Paul, say to you that if you receive circumcision, Christ will be of no benefit to you. Christ will be of no benefit to you. Now, this is a dire warning. I see right now we're not even going to begin to get through this today. It's okay. It's a dire warning. And this does not concern salvation. We've made this salvation. It's not. Your salvation has nothing to do with you. The Bible says, now this may haunt you or you don't like it, but I'm just going to quote it. The Bible says in Romans 5:11 that you are saved by his life, not by your prayer. Do you need to believe him? Yes, to benefit from what he's already given you. But he's done it. And if you receive circumcision, if you receive this circumcision, then Christ will be of no benefit to you. Not just for salvation, but we are a victim of living in a land that's totally determined by what we do. And boy, will it be miserable. For living a victorious lifestyle, we must understand that it's all Christ and none of me. If you want to live a victorious life, we need to walk in the freedom that Christ has given us. Walk in the freedom that Christ has given us. There have been situations where somebody was a son of somebody and didn't know it. And they lived like they weren't. But one day they came to realize that I'm a son. I'm not an employee. I'm not a slave. I am a son. And it brings freedom. From Christ's mind, nothing ever changes. From the mind of the Father, nothing ever changes. He's always seen you like a son, and he always will. But from your perspective, if you go back to law, you stop living as a son and you start living as a slave. In verse 3, let's read verse 3. I don't know how much further we'll go. And I testify again to every man who receives circumcision that he is under obligation to keep the whole law. If you receive circumcision, and we're not talking about a physical act right here. Put that out of your mind. We're not talking about something that doctors do on the 8th day. That's not what we're talking about. In this day and time, we were saying that you had to be a Jew and keep all the Jewish law before you could be a Christian. You say, well, that's wrong. It's the same thing we do. You've got your Baptist law. You got your Church of Christ law. You got your Methodist law. If you have to put something on the front of who you are, then you don't understand who you are. I hear people say, I'm a Baptist. Are you? It's really funny. When I was in the Army, we were getting our dog tags. And I said, what are you? What are you? They meant, are you Jew? Are you Baptist? Are you Protestant? Are you Catholic? Whatever. I said, what are you? I said, I'm a Christian. And they said, no, you can't say that. I said, well, that's what I am. Boy, you can't know the day how much trouble that caused when they were stamping my dog tag. But what kind of Christian? Saved one. Blood bought. That freaks people out. I'm a Christian that knows he's loved by God. I can't put that on that dog tag. That's too long. Finally, we came up with Protestant. That's all you were allowed to be. Protestant. Catholic. Jew. How sad we have these labels. We have these labels. Receiving circumcision or the law leads to an obligation to keep the whole law. You know what that leads to? life of failure. Most of you, all right, I'm looking at the camera now, you, I do this for my grandchildren that live in Texas. I'm going to get you, and they go, ha, ha, they laugh. You know, little ones, 2-year-olds, they just think I'm funny. 20-year-olds, they look at me and they go, I don't know about that guy. Old people think I'm funny again. It's the very old and the very young that like me. Those in between, they struggle. Craig, he's just weird, you know. But anyway, to try to keep part of the law leads to obligation to keep all the law. You're not under law. They were teaching that there was something you had to do. Be a Jew first in order to be right with God. People preach and teach that there are things today that you have to do to be right with God. You list them. I won't try to list them. Don't list them out loud, but just think about it. Okay, let's do this. Let's be honest here. Let's be fair here. Think of the things that you think that you have to do. You think that you have to do to be right with God. If there's anything on that list, you don't understand God. You don't understand the nature and the love of God for all men based on what He did, not on what you do. You don't understand that you were chosen in Him from before the foundation of the world. Before He created anything, it was already finished and you were chosen in Him. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit had encircled you with their arms. They had their arms around each other and they put you in the middle. And they were just going round and round, rejoicing in you, glorying in you. If you've got anything on your list of things that you think you need to do to get right with God, then you don't understand God. If you think there's anything that you need to do to get right with God, then you're negating the cross. It's either saying the cross was not necessary or it was not complete. If you think that there's anything that you need to do to get right with God, you're saying the cross was not necessary or not complete. And no one can keep any of the law anyway. Jesus said if you've broken one of them, you've broken them all. Well, you've broken one of them, you've broken them all. You can't keep one, let alone the whole law. So people trying to live under the law are doomed to walk in failure, and they do. But this is not your identity. Now, this is going to sound strange, what I'm going to say. It's not man's identity either, because what Christ did for one, He did for all. Christ said, or Paul said, Christ agreed with him, that when one died, talking about Jesus, all died. It says that in 2 Corinthians 5:14. People don't know this. They don't know that they've been set free. In man's own mind, it's not from Christ, he thinks that his relationship is based on what he does. And this obligation to keep all the law because of circumcision, it says it severs one from Christ. This is an aorist passive. That means completed action. Passive voice, something causes the action. That is in your mind. That is not what Christ did. That is what you have done. You think that you are separated from Christ, and that started in the garden. It's the last thing I'm going to share with you. When man ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they saw themselves as dead men. The word dead, thanatos, it means to be separate. They saw themselves as being separate from the one who loves them, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And they separated themselves from God. But God, being holy and righteous and loving as is His nature, when man separated himself and hid from Him, He sought and found man. And then He made a covering for man's sin. He took the skins of an innocent animal and He covered them, and that was the first picture of the cross, the blood atonement. One died, all died. When He died, you died. When He was buried, Romans 6:4, you were buried. When He was raised, you were raised to walk in newness of life. When you go back to the law, you've been severed from Christ from your perspective. and then you've fallen from grace. People think, now this is wrong. People think that falling from grace means that you've sinned and God has turned his back on you. Wrong. Exactly the opposite. Falling from grace is thinking that what you do determines your relationship on Christ, and it's you that's turned your back on the grace of God. Do you understand that? That's the opposite of what you used to believe as a young person.
Yeah.
The opposite. Falling from grace is saying I'm taking myself out from under the grace of God. Totally wrong. Robinson and some of the churches that you were in Pakistan, the legalistic churches, falling from grace means they thought you could be lost again because you sinned. Friends, you can bark like a dog and go outside, but you're not a dog. You can act like a dog, but you're not a dog. You are who he says you are, somebody that he loves and died for. And died as. Trying to keep the law causes man to give up. He'll just give up. Now this verse is saying that one can't be justified apart from the grace of God. It's all him. It's none of me. But you can't lose your justification based on what you do. You didn't gain it by what you did. And you can't lose it by what you did. You can't walk in freedom, grace, and bondage as a way of life. You can't do both. Either or. Now you can walk like what you are not. We call that walking according to the flesh. And you can try to live up to the law and fail. And your life is going to be miserable. And it may look good. You may